Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, Chapter 74, The Deliverance of Shishupala. Text 19 through 24. Arhati Hachuta Shrastyam Bhagavan Sattvatampati Eshavai Devata Sarva Deshakala Dhanadaya Ahati Hachuta Shrastyam Bhagavan Sattvatampati Eshavai Devata Sarva Deshakala Dhanadaya Arhati Hachuta Shrastyam Bhagavan Sattvatampati Eshavai Devata Sarva Deshakala Dhanadaya Vaishnavis. Arhati deserves. He indeed, Achyuta, infallible Krishna. Shraistyam, the supreme position. Bhagavan, the supreme Lord. Sattvatam, of the Yadavas. Pati, the chief. Esha, he. By certainly, Devata, demigods, Sarva, all, Desha, the place for the sacrifice, Kala, the time, Dhana, the material paraphernalia, Adaya, and so on. Sahadeva said, Certainly it is Achyuta, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and chief of the Yadavas, who deserves the highest position. In truth, he himself comprises all the demigods worshipped in sacrifice, along with such aspects of the worship as the sacred place, the time, and the paraphernalia. This entire universe is founded upon him, as are the great sacrificial performances, with their sacred fires, oblations, and mantras. Sankhya and Yoga both aim toward him, the one without a second. O assembly members, that unborn Lord, relying solely on himself, creates, maintains, and destroys this cosmos by his personal energies. And thus the existence of this universe depends on him alone. He creates the many activities of this world, and thus by his grace, the whole world endeavors for the ideals of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Therefore, we should give the highest honor to Krishna, the Supreme Lord. If we do so, we will be honoring all living beings and also our own selves. Anyone who wishes the honor he gives to be reciprocated infinitely should honor Krishna, the perfectly peaceful and perfectly complete soul of all beings, the Supreme Lord, who views nothing as separate from himself. Purport. Srila Prabhupada writes as follows. Sahadev said, "Ladies and gentlemen, it is superfluous to speak about Krishna, because every one of you exalted personalities knows Supreme Brahman, Lord Krishna, for whom there are no material differences between his body and soul, between energy and the energetic, or between one part of the body and another. Since everyone is part and parcel of Krishna, there is no qualitative difference between Krishna and all living entities. Everything is an emanation of Krishna's energies, the material and spiritual energies. Krishna's energies are like the heat and light of the fire. There is no difference between the quality of heat and the fire itself. He should therefore be offered the first worship of this great sacrifice, and no one should disagree. Krishna is present as the super soul in every living being, and if we can satisfy him, then automatically every living being becomes satisfied." Shukadeva Goswami continued, "Having said this, Sahadeva, who understood Lord Krishna's powers, fell silent, and having heard his words, all the saintly persons present congratulated him, exclaiming, 'Excellent, excellent!' Om Gyanachimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militang Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare." Amidst all the opulence, pomp, and grandeur, as the Rajasuya Yajna gets underway, we should not forget this is all about praying, an outpouring of pure love. There was some doubt in the audience, as you heard in preceding verses. Although such a distinguished gathering, nevertheless, not everyone immediately honed in on Krishna as the obvious candidate for receiving the Agra Puja, the first worship, so that the yajna could get underway. There was some doubt. And as you heard yesterday, in the audience were Brahma, Shiva, Vyasadeva, but they were quiet, thinking, We won't say anything. We'll let Sahadev do all the talking. If Sahadev, who's so intelligent, doesn't speak up, then we'll say something. And of course, Sahadev did speak up, clarifying Krishna's exalted position. He's speaking tattva, how Krishna is the cause of all causes. But let us not forget the intense love of Krishna present as Sahadev is speaking. The Acharyas point out that his very name, Sahadev, Saha, with, Deva, the Lord. He's carrying the Lord in his heart and speaking accordingly. After explaining the tattva, the science of the Supreme, suddenly Sahadeva stops and goes quiet. Why is that? He's overwhelmed with prema, the Acharyas explain. Amidst the grand opulence and majesty of Yudhishthira's yajna, the number one reality is the pure affection for Krishna. And you'll see more of that as Yudhishthira executes the Agra Puja happily. So glad that the assembly has selected Krishna. Who else could they select? There was some discord in the audience, because remember who is in the audience. Shishupala. But before we get to Shishupala and his nefarious nature and activities, let's focus on Yudhishthira Maharaj washing the feet of Krishna. Actually, the Acharyas pointed out that Krishna wanted to wash the feet of everyone at the yajna. And Krishna showed affectionate irritation at being glorified in such a way. So Yudhishthira is washing the feet. His wife is pouring the water. And then Yudhishthira takes the water that's washed Krishna's feet and puts it on the head of his closest associates, beginning with his wife, who was right nearby, because she poured the water on the feet, and then his brothers, and then ministers, so on and so forth. Yudhishthira could barely see because his eyes were blinded with tears. Only by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, fulfilling Yudhishthira's desire to see the feet and be able to execute, was Yudhishthira able to see because being overwhelmed by prema. You heard the audience shouting, "Excellent, excellent, sadhu, sadhu." Everything is going on very nicely. But Shishupala is waiting for action. You know why he was waiting. He's very strategic. He wanted to disrupt the whole yajna. All this outpouring of love for Krishna. Externally, Shishupala is the greatest demon, but internally he's a devotee. So Shishupala waits patiently and allows Krishna to be selected for the Agra Puja. Shishupala doesn't interfere. He wants to wait till a moment or stage of the yajna in which, if there's a mistake, if there's a disruption, the whole yajna is ruined. So Shishupala is thinking, if I say something now and protest Krishna's being selected, before the Agra Puja starts, they'll just pick someone else, and the sacrifice will go on as already planned. But I want to disrupt the sacrifice, so I can't. In other words, believe it or not, Shishupala had such ego that he believed if I spoke up when Sahadev said Krishna's the one, I would convince so many people that Krishna is a nonsense. They would listen to me, of course. I'm Shishupala. He had that kind of ahankar. So he said, no, I won't disrupt things at that stage. I won't get everyone to listen to me and be anti-Krishna just now. I'll wait till the critical moment when the yajna is about to begin. The Agra Puja has already happened. I'll wait for that, and then I'll cause a disruption. And you know how he caused that disruption. On the one hand, you have Yudhisthira so desiring to glorify Krishna. Remember Narada Muni explaining to Krishna Yudhisthira's desire for the Rajasuya Yajna? He said, actually, for himself, Yudhisthira has nothing to ask for. But he wants to do this yajna so everyone can see your true position. Yudhisthira wants to show the difference. Prabhupada writes so clearly in Krishna book. I want to show the difference between accepting Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead versus considering him to be an ordinary person. I want to show the Devatas that they have no power independent of Krishna. I want to clarify Krishna's position. So this yajna is Yudhisthira's preaching. Just like you have Ratha Yatras and you have 50th anniversary celebrations. So this is Yudhisthira's preaching event. And because he's Yudhisthira, possessing untold opulence, he has the ways and means to execute a Rajasuya Yajna. So bear in mind, the whole yajna is an outpouring of Yudhisthira's love for Krishna. And Sahadeva has spoken with such love that he became silent, overwhelmed by prema. Yudhisthira is washing the feet and can barely see the feet because his eyes are filled with tears as he's overwhelmed with prema. But then, the opposite. You have Shishupala. Shishupala, since babyhood, would blaspheme Krishna, even before he could talk properly. He would chant Krishna's names with disgust. Garuda Vahana, Pundarikaksha, Lakshmisha, Sarangi. He couldn't even talk straight, and he's cursing and blaspheming Krishna. Earlier in the 7th canto, you may remember that after Shishupala meets his death at the yajna, because he's going to stand up, as you know, waving his arms. Wait a minute, just wait a minute. I can't believe the effect of time. There are so many glorious persons in this assembly. I can imitate Shishupala very well because of my nature. There's so many austere yogis, so many saintly persons. You could have chosen any one of them, but you have chosen Krishna. I can't believe it. This is the time factor. There's no other explanation for such nonsense. He went on and on. This Krishna, we don't know what is his varna. He's just like a dacoit coming out of Dwarka from time to time and plundering and doing criminal activities. Oh, what a commotion this is causing. Some people left because they couldn't counter Shishupala, but they didn't want to be present hearing such great offenses. Others were pulling at the Kshatriyas were pulling at their swords. We gotta take him out. We gotta finish him off. The Pandavas especially. And this is what Shishupala wanted. He knew the protocols for the yajna. If a drop of blood is shed at this point of the yajna, the whole yajna is spoiled. So he wanted to fight. Come on. Let's go for it. Take me on. Come on. He didn't seem to care for his own life. He just wanted to stop this yajna, which was glorifying Krishna. It's just one Shishupala. Of course, he's extraordinarily powerful because this is Jai in his third birth. And with each birth, first Hiranyakashipu, then Ravana, now Shishupala, each time the powers of Jai increase. So he was not afraid that there are so many other powerful warriors there. He was intent on stopping the love for Krishna, stopping the glorification of Krishna. So how is Krishna going to handle this? What's going to happen? The whole love offering, the gala love offering of Yudhisthira is going to be ruined? No. Krishna sent, as you know, his Sudarshan chakra. And with surgical precision, decapitated Shishupala without a drop of blood being shed. But what's going on as the chakra is coming towards Shishupala? Through the light of the chakra, Shishupala sees clearly this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What Jai didn't see clearly as Hiranyakashipu, Rupa Goswami explains this in Laghu Bhagavatamrita. If you have a chance, you can read the BBT rendition of Laghu Bhagavatamrita. It's very fascinating. So, Hiranyakashipu just thought Nrsingadev is a powerful living entity. Hiranyakashipu thought, I'm powerful. This half man, half lion is some creature that's become powerful by probably pious activities. So when Hiranyakashipu is killed by Nrsingadev, he doesn't have any God realization. Of course, underneath it all, he's Jai. And then the next birth, because the Shastra explains, if you're killed by an avatar, or if you're killed by Krishna and have no realization, you go to heavenly planets. So, first Hiranyakashipu, now Ravana. More power and opulence than the Devatas. But when Ravana is killed, Rupa Goswami explains, and he's quoting from the Vishnu Purana, when Ravana is killed, he doesn't have that realization that this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So again, no liberation. Ravana was so fixated on Sita. Ah, such a beautiful woman. Got to have her. He wasn't in any kind of theistic consciousness. But each time, in the death of Hiranyakashipu, then the death of Ravana, they're getting a little closer in their realization, but not enough to get liberation. So Rupa Goswami takes great care to explain about the Paravasta, the three appearances of the Lord that show the most qualities. First, Nrsingadev, then more Ramchandra, and the most, Krishna. So in the third appearance of Jai, he's Shishupala in the Chedi dynasty. He's the son of Dhamaghosh. He's Dhamaghosh Sutta. And as we said, he's blaspheming Krishna since babyhood. And he's very cruel. What is the proof given? Jiva Goswami points out an interesting fact. Why Shishupala is known to be so cruel. He set fire the Gomanta mountain. What's the Gomanta mountain? This is mentioned, Jiva Goswami says, in the Harivamsha, that during the 18 times that Jarasandha attacked Krishna, Krishna and his forces retreated to a mountain, Gomanta mountain, as their fortress. And so Jarasandha took advice from Shishupala what to do. Shishupala said, burn the whole mountain, flush them out in that way, set fire to the whole Gomanta mountain, and then Krishna and his forces either burn to death or they have to leave the mountain where we are waiting to get them. So why is this considered so cruel, you might wonder? According to today's standards of warfare, it's business as usual. War today means destroy the environment and first destroy the women and children. So we would think nothing. What's the problem? Why is Shishupala getting such a bad name for ordering that the Gomanta mountain be set afire? According to Vedic standards, this is considered abominable. Why destroy nature just because there's a personal battle between Jarasandha and Krishna? A real civilization doesn't fight in such a way that innocent people are killed, the environment is destroyed. So in other words, what Shishupala was ordering is today known as ecocide, destroying the environment. And in Vedic times, that's considered a great offense. On Gomanta mountain, there were many ascetics living. Why make the whole mountain uninhabitable just because some Kshatriyas want to fight? Just like, as you know, the Battle of Kurukshetra was fought in what was then an isolated place, far from innocent people. So therefore, it may be hard for us to understand why Shishupala is getting such a bad name because of ordering the Gomanta mountain to be set afire. But as we explained, from the Vedic point of view, this is considered abominable. You want to fight? Just don't involve others. Let the Kshatriyas battle each other. Don't harm the women, don't harm the children, and don't harm nature. But what does war mean now? Poison the ground, poison the air, radioactivity, all kinds of poisonous materials left over from battles, making the soil polluted, making the air polluted, making the bodies of people polluted. So this is why Shishupala was considered to be such a terrorist. But when the chakra came toward him, for the first time, he realized fully the glories of Krishna. He was already prepared since childhood by unconsciously being attracted to Krishna's name and Krishna's beauty. As Baladev Vijayabhushan explains in the commentary in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, what's different about Krishna than Ramchandra and Nrsingadev is that Krishna can enter your heart with his beauty, with his charm, with his name, because he's the pinnacle of attractiveness. So Shishupala had that. He was negatively, unfavorably Krishna conscious to the maximum. He wasn't that way as Hiranyakashipu. He wasn't that way as Ravana. But now, he's dying in Krishna consciousness. And the final grace that he gets is by the mercy of the Sudarshan Chakra. He can see, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am his part and parcel. And off goes his head. What happened? Everyone could see, and Yudhisthira is going to ask Narada Muni about this in the 7th canto, chapter 1. Everyone can see the soul of Shishupala merge into Krishna's body. So this is going to intrigue Yudhisthira so much that right there at the yajna, he's going to ask Narada Muni about it. He's going to ask Narada Muni about it in the presence of other sages who can also hear. So Yudhisthira is going to say, I have a doubt. My intelligence is like a candle light that's blown by the wind. My intelligence is flickering. What I've seen is unbelievable. Can you explain, oh Muni, oh Narada Muni, can you explain? It's so hard for the greatest yogis, the greatest mystics, to merge into Krishna's body. How is it that Shishupala could do it? I can't. This is unbelievable. I've seen it. Hint. Did Shishupala just merge and that's the end of it? No. The Shastra explains he seemed to merge into Krishna, but he's actually, if you want to drill down into the details, he merged into Vaikuntanath, the Lord of Vaikuntha, who is within Krishna, because Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan, contains all incarnations, all expansions. So Shishupala merged into Vaikuntanath. And then when the Moshala Leela came, when Swayam Bhagavan withdrew his presence from ordinary vision, Vaikuntanath went back to Vaikuntha, and Jai went back with him as his servant. It's fine print. There's always these details. Let's not get too hung up on them. So in that way, Jai was reestablished in Vaikuntha. So it looks like he's merging into Krishna, the Acharyas explain. But Narayan is Krishna, Krishna is Narayan. But Jai is not a Goloka man. He's a Vaikuntha man. So again, Yudhisthira is asking Narada Muni, how could this happen? It's such a sinful creature. And then Yudhisthira points out some other evidence. What about Vena? He was a blasphemer, but he went to hell. Why didn't Shishupala go to hell? But as you know, Vena had no understanding in any way of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was just an atheist. He was not conscious of the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna and hating them, as was Shishupala. Shishupala's hatred was so intense that Narada Muni says to Yudhisthira, oh, how glorious is the hatred of such demons. In other words, I wish I had that kind of intensity. Narada Muni is being humble, that I don't have that kind of intensity in my love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But look at the intensity that this demon Shishupala had, and demons like him, like Kamsa, always fixated on the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I've got to kill him, even though he can't be killed. So Narada Muni is apparently glorifying the demons in their asarika bhava, their intense emotions of rebellion. Just as Kaviraj Goswami, Prabhupada explains, considers himself to be more sinful than Jagai Madai, lower than a worm in stool. How they're actually feeling in that way, such greatest personalities, that we can only aspire for, that we can get a drop of such realization. So how does Narada Muni start to answer Yudhisthira's query? Because this is all going on at the Rajasuya Yajna, in the presence of other sages who are obviously hanging on to every word. This is a great question. What's the answer going to be? Narada Muni starts to answer it by explaining the nature of Krishna's body. Krishna's body is not material, therefore there's no one he hates, there's no one he favors, he's completely impartial. Being favorably inclined in a material way to one person and being unfavorably inclined in a material way to another person, that's the symptom of having a material body. So how can Krishna, who has no material body, show material partiality? So Narada Muni takes great care to explain that point. It's interesting that he begins his explanation in that way. His explanation results in our understanding that we need absorption and intensity in our bhakti. By studying that part of Bhagavatam, 7th Canto, Chapter 1, you realize the need for becoming more Krishna conscious rather than mechanically executing our devotional practices. This is why Narada Muni is exclaiming, how glorious is the hatred of the demons. I wish I had that kind of intensity. So Shishupala's efforts to destroy the Rajasuya Yajna failed. The result was his own death. And the yajna went on because as we said, not one drop of blood was shed due to Krishna's expertise. Yet and still, right at the very same yajna, Yudhisthira is questioning Narada Muni. Like, did you see what I saw? How could that be? In Laghu Bhagavatamrita it is explained more how only Krishna gives liberation. That's the special feature of Swayam Bhagavan, Supreme Personality Godhead. When other forms of the Lord kill you, you get a higher birth. So even Ramchandra killing Ravana did not result in Ravana's liberation. Even Nrsimhadev killing Hiranyakashipu did not result in Hiranyakashipu's liberation. So this makes us think, how special is Krishna? And Rupa Goswami wants you to think that way. Therefore, he presents such an elaborate description of the results of being killed by Krishna as compared to being killed by other forms of the Lord. Are there any questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thanks for the nice class. So Maharaj, you mentioned about Hiranyakashipu, Ravan, and then finally Shishupala. So one of the points you mentioned was that intensity of the hate. The intensity was so strong. So Shishupala was liberated because he had that kind of intensity, or when the Sudarshan Chakra when he saw the Sudarshan Chakra, he could see the Supreme Personality Godhead. So he got liberation because of that intensity of hatredness, or because he understood Krishna at the last minute that he is the Supreme Personality Godhead, and he got the liberation.
Both. Remember, since babyhood, he was focused on Krishna with hatred. And the Sudarshan Chakra was like the final step for it was the culmination of Shishupal's hatred. He saw clearly this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and understood the implications of that. Whereas being a child and growing up hating Krishna, it was not like he's hating the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But when the chakra comes, and now I understand who I'm hating. I understand the full glories of whom I'm hating. So it's interesting that Jai is the same person as Hiranyakashipu, as Ravana, as Shishupala. And Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whether as Nrsingadev, Ramchandra, or Krishna. But still, Krishna is special. So the culmination of Jai's being killed those 3 times is to be killed by Krishna, and Jai is in full consciousness. Another point that Jiva Goswami makes is that when Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, or Shishupala would blaspheme Krishna or speak negative, especially Shishupala, they were intentionally meaning positive. Intentionally meaning positive. Jai and Vijay, because they're devotees. But other lesser demons who weren't so originally Krishna conscious, fixed up in Krishna conscious, Saraswati, irrespective of what these other demons thought and what their intention was, Saraswati made their words mean something else. But with Jai and Vijay, they intentionally were speaking double talk. Krishna, he has no caste. They know what they're meaning. They're doing it on purpose. But other demons, no. Saraswati, regardless of the other demons' thoughts, Saraswati made their words come out opposite. But in the case of Vijay, they intentionally were speaking double. When they blasphemed Krishna, Krishna is this. And it sounded very horrendous, but they meant the opposite. It's a very interesting point. Because internally they're devotees. Sometimes we forget that. They offered to come to the material world to give pleasure to Krishna in fighting. In Vaikuntha, in the palatial life of Vaikuntha, Jai and Vijay had heard the glories of Krishna fighting demons, and so they thought, we want to do some service. Another point to understand is that, and this is explained in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, not in every day, every kalpa, every day of Brahma does Jai and Vijay come to the material world. Just once. Once meaning they left Vaikuntha just once. Otherwise you would think, because every day of Brahma there are the appearances of these avatars. There's the appearance of Srimad Bhagavatam. So every day of Brahma, Jai and Vijay they fall down. No. Rupa Goswami takes care to explain that point. Anything else? Okay, you have to raise your hand higher, please, and speak up.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the nice class. Maharaj, we see in this pastime when Shishupala is blaspheming Krishna with bad names. Why didn't the other members, like Bhishma, the Pandavas, who knew Krishna is supreme, stop him and say that Krishna is the supreme? Why didn't they protest against him?
They were ready. They were practically pulling at their weapons. But it's a yajna. So it's a tough situation. They don't want a big fight at the yajna. So Krishna solved the problem with surgical precision. It was a huge, disastrous situation at that point. As I said, some persons left the assembly. They didn't want to hear this blasphemy. Others were ready to fight. So Krishna solved the situation. And the yajna went on. But as we said, during the yajna, Yudhishthira is asking Narada Muni, did you see what I saw? Shishupala's spirit soul merging into Krishna? How could that be? Can you explain this?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, among the 6 anarthas in our heart, Shishupala represents envy. Shishupala represents envy.
Yes.
So how about the devotees who are taken to devotional service and they envy each other? What is the, like Prabhupada writes in 9th canto regarding Lord Ramchandra. So he explains one who hears the pastimes of Lord Ramchandra, so one is freed from the envy. And Prabhupada explains at least one should not envy the devotees who are taken to Krishna consciousness.
I like Prabhupada's explanation of envy. He said, envy is indirect appreciation. You only envy someone who has something better or does something better. You don't envy someone who's worse off than you. Oh, I envy your hellish situation. So the person has to have something better or do something better, and then you feel envy. But that's indirect appreciation. So Srila Prabhupada explained, why don't you just directly appreciate? Oh, you've done so nicely. Oh, your qualities are so wonderful. So I always keep that in mind. Envy is indirect appreciation, so why not just directly appreciate? It's a great delight appreciating devotees. It's the real Vaishnava sport, appreciating devotees, watching for devotees and how wonderful they do things and showing appreciation, expressing appreciation. It fills your day with excitement. So yes, next time you feel envy, oh, this devotee has done so well. It won't last. Just like sometimes it happens. Older devotees who are a little not so enthusiastic. They see a brand new bhakta so enthusiastic, and they say, oh, you're in the bhakta honeymoon stage. You're enthusiastic now. This is your first year. But give it some time. You'll be cynical like us. And so be ready for that. You're going to lose your enthusiasm. So start preparing now for you're losing your enthusiasm. There are going to be problems, let me tell you. That's envy of the innocence and enthusiasm of the young devotees. Better to give them knowledge so that they can handle whatever life presents to them. But don't ever diminish someone's enthusiasm. Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaji, my obeisances unto you. Such wonderful class, such wonderful words. Okay, I just have a query. We have come to learn that there are 4 purusharthas, goals of human life: dharma, artha, moksha, kama. And there is another one, the 5th one, prema. So, which sampradaya first introduced the prema?
Which what?
Sampradaya, or religious community.
What Lord Chaitanya is giving is love of Krishna and separation. That is unique and special. Vipralamba Seva. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya is glorified for giving what no one else has ever given before. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prem Pradayate. He's giving more than Vaikuntha, more than Lakshmi Narayan. Even more than Radha Krishna. He's giving Radha and Krishna in separation. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.